Today we were talking about Infernal Affair, which is a 2002 crime thriller from Hong Kong. And so we'll be going through all the scenes of it, the highs, lows, some of our own like kind of nitpicks, and some hypotheticals about it. Before we do, we always do go into the movies that we've watched recently. And so if you do want to skip ahead, there are timestamps ahead. But before we get into the movie, John, tell me what you've been watching recently.
Yeah, I actually was really excited to tell you about these two. Like I don't know, like not always when we come onto these do I have two that jump out. Sometimes I have to look for them, and be like, ooh, I could tell them about that one. You know what I mean? Do you kind of have the same thing where it's like, oh, okay, that's actually a good one. So the first one I want to tell you is Grizzly Man. You ever seen this one?
Oh man, dude, I think I saw that when I was like 10, like 8 or something, like way too
Oh,
young to see that movie. I think I was just really confused by it at the time,
well,
but
I
I
was.
saw you logged that and I was fired up.
You should watch that. I think it's on like Amazon Prime, but I think it's just one of those rare documentaries that like it's well known. I've always wondered like why, and like there's not a lot of documentaries that like you just know about. Like, oh, that's a famous documentary. I guess because Warner Herzog directed it. Like
I had no idea it was Werner Herzog until you logged it.
Oh yeah. I mean it's one of his like the big movies next to his name. Which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it was really good. Like I think it's a really cool story too. Like not always like it was cut really well, and it was a really cool story, and it's probably worth revisiting. You should check that out.
I know we normally try to go through this part of the pod pretty quickly, but can you actually just give me like
Yeah,
what is your reaction from that movie? I know the ending and everything. Anyone, yeah, we're gonna spoil the Grizzly Man, so
yeah. Skip
yeah,
ahead.
I'm curious to hear.
Dude, that guy is just nuts. Like that is crazy. Like
Nuts.
I think what's so crazy about it is like there was this one like analyst he was talking about. He's like, I think the Bears honestly just thought he was like mentally handicapped or something. Like I think the Bears probably just thought he was a little off and just didn't want to mess with him. Like because he survived for like 12 summers. So I think for like a lot of like people were like, whoa, he learned how to live with the Bears. Like no, I think the Bears like saw him as a threat because they're like, yo, no, dude, this crazy like we should stay away from this guy. Like he's seriously messed up. Yeah. But it's crazy that at the end, the bear that finally gets him was like out of towner or something. Like it's like all the bears around him got used to them, and then like he like for whatever reason this kind of like more rogue bear came along and like right away just like swiped him. So after like surviving for 12 years, he get killed by like an out of towner.
That's so crazy. There's
Yeah.
I think there's actual footage of it somewhere too, or like at least the audio,
Oh
which is
yeah.
nuts.
They play it in the documentary, and dude, it's so messed up. I don't even know. Like Warner Herzog, he's listening to it on the audio file, and then like a friend of the guy who died, like Warner's reacting to it live, and she's like watching him react to it. She's like, Warner's like, oh my god, this is horrible. Like he's like, you should never listen to this, and she's just like sitting there like, yeah, I never want to listen to it. He's like,
Did Warner interview the guy himself?
No, he was already dead. Like I think he just cut
Okay,
like
I was gonna say.
all the bear footage is the guy's footage. So it was just like that all the footage of the outdoor, and that's what's really cool is the guy like wants to be an actor, like he was acting for a while. So he takes like cool, like interesting footage that then Warner cuts together, but then he also like interviews people who knew him and like experts and like stuff like that.
Unhinged stuff.
Yeah. The second one I want to tell you about is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Go off.
Dude, it was just messed up. Like I don't know. Like it caught me slipping. I would like about halfway through I was like, oh, this is like nothing. Like Leatherface, he's not that scary, And then they got me so bad. Like it just like rip roars towards the end, and I was like, whoa, okay, yeah. Like I will not jump to conclusions ever again.
When did that movie come out?
Like 74.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's really hard. There's a lot of genres that just don't tend to age well. Like comedy in general is tough. I think horror is pretty tough too. We've just gotten so desensitized nowadays that like you got to have some real fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever see Talk to Me, which came out a couple of years ago? That was a horror movie. Disturbing. Or there's another one called Bring Her Back. It's the same directors that's coming out soon.
I don't know. See, I don't think I could handle either one of those. Like the new stuff, I can't handle. The only reason I could get through like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is because enough of it still looks like a little fake. Like there's like a grandpa who looks like not like an old guy at all. It's like a guy in an old guy suit,
Yeah, it's also kind of funny in a lot of those old school horror movies. Like I'm thinking especially the kind of, kids driving out to like the lake or, middle of the woods or whatever. A lot of times the bad guys are kind of these like sickly old men looking dudes that look like they've just been like drinking and chain smoking for 80 years straight. And this is definitely, I mean, I probably would get killed if I was in one of those movies, but there's part of my brain that's like, I don't know. I kind of think I could take that guy. Like I don't know. Nowadays it's like that is not what these monsters look like. I'm dead in 2 seconds. But there's a part of my brain that's like, I don't know. He's got the chainsaw, but maybe if I can just kind of if I can hit like a little juke on him.
Well, someone on Letterboxd says this, and I wish I knew who it was because, well, it was just a random person, so I can't credit them. But it was like, oh, like it's actually the first horror movie that makes sense. Where like it's like an overweight guy with a chainsaw. Like you could probably outrun him, Like the girl's like sprinting through a field, and he's like barely keeping up, and he's like 300 pounds running with a chainsaw.
I'll have to check that one out. I've heard nothing but good things like for what that's aged and why it's had the legacy that it's had.
And like considered like a horror classic. What have you been watching, man?
I have a couple. I'm just gonna shout it out, not gonna go into it a ton.
Okay.
But I rewatched Spotlight again. Had some friends in town. That was my 4th watch of it, and it's definitely like on the short list of weird movies that Nick likes to rewatch.
Well, tell me why 4 watches. I saw that once and I really liked it. Like I gave it 5 star. I loved it. But 4 watches, you must really like that. Like what do you like about it?
I think the fact that like, the setting of Boston, like my family's all Irish Catholic. So like, even though we were South Side Chicago, I feel like a lot of like historic kinship sort of with the setting, even though I never really was exposed to that culture, like I can understand it a little bit. But,
wait, you're from South Side Chicago?
My family's all from,
Wait, like from the rap?
Yeah, my dad, Michael Drill, he invented the drill.
Oh, he invented drills.
He invented drills. Yes. Yeah. No, but yeah, they're from the South Side back in the day. And anywho, I just like, so for that reason, it's a little bit like I can kind of understand a little bit of it, but ultimately it's less so about the subject matter and more like, I love the procedural aspect of it. And it's definitely like a lot of like, I heard the term recently of like competence porn. Like just the idea of like, it's so satisfying to like watch like a spy thriller where you just see someone that is so excellent and methodical and experienced and like diligent. And,
well, like the killer, it's setting it up like that, and then he's not that good. That's why that Fincher movie was so good. Because like he misses the shot. What was it? Isn't that what happened? Something like that? Yeah.
No, it totally is. When you said the killer, I was like, I thought you meant like the archetypical.
No, sorry.
I was like, there's not a killer in Spotlight, but anyway, no, exactly. Like that is a good example because the rest of the movie, he is like very methodical in his approach. And so I feel somewhat similar when I watch Spotlight. Like it's just so interesting watching these people really be dedicated to something. And like, as much as the story they're chasing is like a meaningful one, it's more so about the fact that there are meaningful stories to tell. And there are people that are like chasing the exposure of that story. So I just think, and I think there's a lot of great things about like Buster Keaton, fucking Michael Keaton,
the general. When he's on that train,
Charlie Chaplin just shows out. I mean, he's a killer in that one.
When the house falls and he's standing in the door,
and there's just the priest, just one priest standing behind that wall.
Dude.
So Spotlight's excellent. I just finished season 2 of Andor, so I rewatched Rogue One.
I saw you log that, and I read that. I was like, man, like I know you told me to watch that, and I really want to watch it because I was like, wow, if Nick respects this show this much, like this is crazy. Oh, yeah. So you said there's a guy who did Spotlight, the same guy who did Andor. Is that what you just said?
No. Sorry, no. Rogue One and Andor. Same
I was just watching like a video, like the same guy who did that Star Wars show that you were telling me about did something else that's like Michael Clayton, that movie Clayton. Yeah, I didn't know that. Like Tony that Gilroy. Show must be really good then, because I know that movie is like I've not seen it, but that movie is like really well regarded, right? Like people love that movie.
It's unbelievable. I mean, like the highest praise I can give for it is like you don't see a single lightsaber in this show. Like that's not what it's about. It's like. Yeah, it's so much more of like a spy thriller / like French Resistance, World War II sort of story.
But it's like drama, right? Like it's like dialogue heavy, like drama. Like
Absolutely.
I like it. Yeah.
I think you'd really like it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say for my recent watch is Lou and I just rewatched the entire Mission Impossible series. And then we saw The Final Reckoning on Friday, which, I will say it's just like, it's a great experience. I think it's, I think I've been thinking of this kind of metaphor recently of like kind of art and how like, I think what's cool about in Chicago, this is like such a long-winded thing I'm about to say.
It's
so
okay.
Bear with me.
No, I'm ready for it.
I think a really cool thing about Chicago compared to New York, like New York's obviously a far bigger city, but in some ways it's so big that you start to like lose appreciation for just how much of a marvel a skyscraper is, even the ugliest one. And like on the Chicago River tour, like these buildings are spaced out a little bit more differently, or a little wider. And anywho, you just get a chance to finally appreciate these things for what they are. And I think the same can be said of a lot of art. Like, I think even like the shittiest movie that comes out nowadays, or animated one, like would be such a marvel to anybody from 30 years ago to see, right? But like, we're so inundated with art that a lot of times we just don't appreciate it enough for what it is.
Yeah.
And so anywho, I just was, rewatching this series. Like, there's a lot of lows, there's a lot of silly stuff, and a lot of like bad writing and like plot holes. But I think seeing it in aggregate, it is just so remarkable what Tom Cruise has like achieved with this franchise, and like what I think he's tried to do for like Hollywood in general with it. Like, I mean, I guess I can't really speak for him. And, to get ahead of it, like I didn't even necessarily really love Final Reckoning. I had a fun time watching it. It's too long, and there's a lot of problems with the story, I think, and the script.
Was there was there cool stunts and stuff? Like, was it enjoyable to see at the movie? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a submarine sequence that's just incredible. I think just like watching the franchise end to end, though, you're just like, this guy really, like, as much as the story and scripts are very weak, the strength of this movie is that, like, when Tom Cruise says like, hold my hand, I'm going to save you, I'm like, I am a 29-year-old man that's like, he could do that. He could scale a vertical face mountain. I absolutely believe Tom Cruise could do that.
Wasn't he on the Burj Khalifa in one of them? Wasn't he up there? Oh my!
Yeah, incredible. And he did it. I mean, like, obviously, there's some fake stuff going on too, but that's just movie magic.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw like a lot of those. I think I only saw the first 2 or 3, but I was young, so I rewatched the first one recently, but then I didn't get through the rest of them. Like, what's the best one? Like, did you rank them?
Well, that's part of the fascinating thing about these movies is they're pretty steadily 5 years in between every one of them, and so it's enough time where you could absolutely be like, oh, like maybe they're not going to make another, and then like it always feels like this exciting revival. And to be honest, I didn't really like ride the wave until these last couple movies, but like they get better as they go on. Like, 1 is excellent, 2 is trash, 3 is good, 4 is when they kind of start to get like their footing of like, this is the formula. And then I think it's Fallout is the 6th movie, and that's by far, I think, the best.
Fallout, okay.
And then this was the 8th one.
Okay. Wow.
I also say this as someone that, like, I think if someone tells me they're really into Fast and Furious, I'm like, I cringe a little bit, which is kind of rude of me, but I don't know. Like, I'm sure somebody could easily call me a hypocrite for feeling this way about Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I just wanted to watch Fast and Furious again with you, because I think that would have been good. Like, I did
not like that movie.
I only remember the first and second one. I don't think I've seen any of the other ones, so I wanted to rewatch the first one and just see if it was good or not. Like, what if it was actually like decent?
We could. I mean, we got plenty of time, John.
And then we can
make our way through.
I do remember Tokyo Drift. But yeah, we'll get to that in another episode. Tokyo Drift. Yeah.
Do we want to get into the movie here?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So, okay, getting back to Infernal Affairs, there's a lot of characters here, and to be honest, I definitely struggled a bit with just, like the fact that you're having to understand, like, they're speaking in Chinese, right? But the 4 main characters we want to, I would say we'd focus on are Lau, who is the triad mole in the police. There's Chan, who's the undercover cop, Superintendent Wong, and then Brother Sam is like the Jack Nicholson character.
What if we just call them all by their counterpart in The Departed? We just say, oh, Leo. And
we can't. Honestly, maybe that would be easier.
It'd be easier for us to talk about it, but yeah, I can't imagine
anybody. Say
anybody.
now, if we make any mistakes, they are not through malintent. We are doing our best.
What were your like initial thoughts? Like, did you like it? Like, before we get into that, like, did you walk away and go like, yeah, this was good?
No, yeah, oh, for sure. This is definitely a good movie. I can absolutely see why it got recreated for Western audiences with The Departed and Scorsese. I mean, kind of insane in retrospect, like knowing, Scorsese for how preeminent he is, to do like a Hong Kong remake. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that would be, I don't know how familiar they would be with Scorsese's work in China, but like,
yeah.
I don't know. Can you imagine writing and directing a movie and then like Scorsese's like, you know what? This is a story worth me taking a bat at. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Oh, it's super crazy.
What does he
And
do franchise or IP or anything, that's not his own original creation to some degree?
But do you think they got mad too because like he won an Oscar for it? Like actually I
Yeah.
think this one got nominated for to be like the international nominee from Hong Kong and didn't even get selected as a nominee for like best international feature at the Academy Awards, you know? And then like 4 years later you see it win best picture, right? And have Scorsese win best director. Like that's
Yeah.
actually crazy, you know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it is hard though. Like Holly, the Oscars is predominantly focused towards, United States films and
Oh
Western
yeah.
Europe too.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait,
it's
let me
interesting though.
yeah, let me give you some initial thoughts on
Yeah.
my side, and then I can give you like the stats and some notes, and then do you want to do best worst same way, like just
Yeah.
go
Let's
through
do
it?
it.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. All right, so yeah, I think like when I first started watching, I was enjoying it maybe a little bit more because I didn't have to focus on the dialogue so much. I could look around. Like usually when I'm watching a foreign language film, like I feel like I'm missing so much, you know, because I'm like always trying to read it and like catch all the little um I feel like I'm missing dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So like because I already knew what was going on, I was like, oh, this is great. And like I could look at the visual aspects too, because I definitely thought it had like a great style to it. You mentioned that earlier. Just kind of like there's like that 2000s style, but like also there's like a confidence that this movie has as a style with some of these cuts and like the way the camera's like moving around. I'm like, whoa, this is like dude has some swagger. And then when I was thinking about The Departed, like I was like, that Scorsese's doing the same thing, but he's just taking it to the max, and he's like Americanizing it to the max, you know. And I don't know if I have specific examples of what I mean, but I want to see what you thought about like that idea of like Scorsese is doing the same thing and like really hamming it up, and like like Jack Nicholson's like going crazy, like like do it like going full steam. Like, what do you
Well,
think
for
about
sure,
that?
even the Bostonness too is
Yeah,
like as much as he's like Americaning, like just jacking it up to
true.
11 on that. It's like it is Boston to a 15, which is a huge image of America in a way. Uh, the accents are such like an for me like a touchstone thing with The Departed though. Like I
Yeah,
can't think of that movie without thinking of like Baldwin calling. Oh God, I can't. Not Baldwin. Wahlberg,
yeah,
just like his maybe yes maybe no maybe fuck yourself sort of
yeah.
energy the entire time.
Oh yeah.
uh yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely like the Bostonness replaces this movie's everybody is wearing a suit at all times, like they have some different cultural elements there.
Oh yeah, I know. Dude, I mean, there's like there's iconic lines, and that's why like I think it's gonna be tough for us to talk about this movie without like just recognizing the fact that I'm like all these scenes that come up, I'm like, oh, this is where like Mark Wahlberg does that thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just hard not to like one of the first scenes that kind of fell flat for me. Not to skip ahead, but maybe I'm bouncing around a little bit for this one, but I just wanted to jump right to it. Is like when the guy fell off the roof and landed on the car, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of fell a little flat because I was like, there was this. It's such a big, great scene with Martin Sheen and Leo and like and I just I didn't get the same like effect from this, you know?
There's definitely a handful of scenes that I felt that way, where there's just something about Scorsese is able to capture that kind of
Yeah.
dynamic nature of like the crashing moment. I think we'll get to it a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a lot of like the elevator stuff going on. I think Scorsese has a better handle on. Um, do we want to go through some of the sequences here and scenes, or do you have
Yeah.
more production stuff?
Well,
You want to
I
touch
can
on
give you some
first?
production stuff. I'll
Yeah,
go
let's do
quick
that.
through it, then we can get right into the scenes. Yeah, because I do want to talk about some of the scenes. I think as we started talking about it, I'm like, there's more to talk about here than I think we're letting on. I think we can dive into it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it does have a 4.0 rating, watched by 118,000 people. It actually did 6.4 million at the box office. Or no, sorry, it had 6.4 million budget, did 7 million. Yeah, this is all US dollar at the box office. So like about broke even. It did win like Hong Kong Film Awards. So it had Best Picture and like Best Director and like and their like awards. So it did get recognized. Did you also like when I was doing the research, I realized and it was like deep into the research that it's called Infernal Affairs and not Internal Affairs.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know why that like confused me. It was like because he gets promoted into the internal affairs at one point. So I was like, oh, Infernal Affairs.
It's definitely it's a little. I mean, maybe this is just me being naive to like Hong Kong culture, which I definitely am. But like, I don't know. When I hear that name, Infernal Affairs, to me, it really evokes like a very Catholic version of like hell. I mean, also,
Yeah,
like I said earlier, I was raised Irish Catholic, so that would make sense. But
yeah.
Yeah, it's not the exact translation of what they refer to it as. I believe it's, I don't know, is it Buddhist?
No, yes, you're close. That's funny that you said it. It's unceasing path. You're right on it. So some of them got like a Vici, and I wanted to see what you thought about that because it was like, yeah, it's called the lowest and most painful level of Buddhist hell. So you were right on the money with what you were equating it to. I didn't even catch that in the title. I was just assuming it was Internal Affairs, that he was like an IA agent. I was like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, well, and there's a little bit of some rough translation, I think,
Yeah.
in the end of it when, I think that there's a quote where it's, longevity in when you're in, I think you said it was a Vici, is like no great, like, or it's like it just adds to your suffering. But I think it says like big suffering, things
Yeah.
like that. Like you can just tell it maybe could have used a little bit of an extra touch for translations purposes. But I don't know, there's also part of me that kind of has like a Tarantino love of like, if there is a little bit of not fully broken English, but like a little bit of not a perfect translation. I don't know. It's like, okay, well, it's part of the love of this is from a different place. And I don't really hate that the translation isn't 100%.
No, I agree. Those are all the background stuff I had though. So let's get into the scenes. Let's get into the movie.
Yeah. So, and like you mentioned earlier, I think we're going to be talking about The Departed constantly through this whole thing. So just, if you're not interested in that version of this podcast, well, just still give us a like and just listen all the way through. But
here's the thing: isn't that going to be most people at this point? Like most people will have seen The Departed first at this point. That's what's tough.
For sure.
So maybe you listen along and say, yeah, I kind of share some of that perspective. Like it is really hard to separate. Maybe you have like a really good brain for this kind of stuff and can totally see it as a separate thing. But yeah, go ahead, Nick. I think what we're saying is tough. It's hard to do.
I was surprised. I mean, I think maybe we should even just talk about it. I was surprised at how direct of a remake it was. Like, I thought maybe, the core concept would have been taken and like lifted and maybe some of like the set pieces from it. But I felt like this was 95% the same movie. I mean, this is really close in terms of fidelity. What did you think?
No, I think so too. I think the core of the story is exactly the same, and then Scorsese puts he embellishes a lot of it, or puts more meat on the bone for a lot of like the storylines. And I do think that was like a bit of a flaw. Like there was just like quick shots of certain things along the way where like Scorsese built out that part of his story more. But yeah, I mean, I think what you're talking about is like it even felt a little bit like it in the beginning too. Like it started off like I was like, oh, this is like really shot for shot. But then I think as it progressed, like they each kind of went their own paths.
Even did you think that I thought I noticed this, and granted it's been a little while, like I said, since I've seen The Departed, but like, so when Lau and Chan go to the academy and there's kind of these like whipping shots and there's kind of a sound associated with the movement of the camera.
Super similar.
That's in The Departed too, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, it is really like shot for shot almost.
Oh, I watched it within the past 6 months, and that's actually what I was talking about. I couldn't remember. You just triggered it in my brain. Like that was exactly what it was. Where like, yeah, they're doing the academy and he's graduating. It's like it's an homage to it, or it's just his version of it, but it's totally following the same concept.
Yeah, and I think again, some of that's part of the time maybe, but I think Scorsese is also like gifted enough to like tip the cap towards this film. But yeah, so we see these characters are sent to the academy. The first real like major sequence or like set piece here is like the Thai cocaine deal. So that's where we see Chan is using the glass to type out Morse code I believe he's placed the microphone outside of the building so he can't get captured, which is honestly pretty brilliant. What a great way to do that.
Yeah, because you think it's in his cast, right? Because then when he like smashes it, I was like, oh, okay, he was, and then it pans out and you could see that it was behind the glass.
Even that feels like an homage in The Departed, though, of like Leo's character has that cast for a little while on his hand. I don't think it's ever explained why he has a cast in this movie, though, right?
No, I think no, it isn't. I think you're supposed to assume that that's where the like walkie-talkie is. Yeah.
Little bit of a nitpick in this scene. So they do eventually figure out that he's doing Morse code. It was unclear to me what Lau put into his computer that allowed him to then translate it somehow. Like maybe nobody has their phones on hand, but he's allowed to keep a floppy disk with some sort of like Morse code program. Maybe I'm just not understanding. But
no, there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. The bigger one to me though is when they identify where the cocaine deal is going on, and they're like pulling up, and some dude is just running into the ocean with a bag of cocaine to try and destroy the evidence. You
Yeah.
don't think any cocaine in that bag is going to be like, this is definitely cocaine? Because at the end, they released all the guys because they're like, yeah, I guess they're just going on a walk on the beach. It's like, there is no way you could not incarcerate those men for getting all that coke.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, what is the legality of that? Where like, no, like like there's residue in the bag. Like, come on, there's no way he's just like, now he's like, oh, you're off free. Like you dumped out most of it, so it doesn't
also
count.
It's like, I'm not exactly a drug lord myself, but I've seen enough television and movies to be under the impression that they would have those in bags. It's not like there's just a duffel bag of raw cocaine, just like like chalk at the gym. So just gonna put that out there. I think those guys are going away for a long time.
That's a good point. We didn't get a scene of a guy with like a plastic wrap bag of cocaine and a knife, and slicing into it and tasting it a bit. Like, who's carrying it inside of that, that duffel bag?
Also, you do get a shot of Lau doing the cocaine when he's like, this is A+, right? And he does this, the Scorsese like head whip that I think Scorsese's got some flack. Have you heard about this before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets a lot of flack for, like, in his movies, characters doing cocaine. They always have the panning shot that goes from the, the line up to their face, and they're like, whipping their head back. And I was like, oh, okay, like, this movie, maybe it was inspired by him to some degree, but like, clearly people are doing this other than just Marty.
Yeah, also, I thought it was funny that this character in the movie gets to do cocaine. It's like, well, he's still a cop. Like, come on, man. Like, Leo doesn't get to like do like, he's doing like prescription medication. He's like finessing for a better script, but it's like he's not doing like he's not doing cocaine with the mobster.
It's great because he's not like, even if there was this footage, somehow there's a camera in the room and they're in court and they're trying to make an argument like, hey, the only reason I did this is because, I have to be undercover and this is part of my job. It's like, he does the line and then he does the, like, he rubs it on his gums thing. It's like, oh, he's just savoring it now. This is he's not even playing a part. He's like, just like doing his thing in here. Just vibing out.
That's a good point. Yeah, why'd he do the little gum? Yeah, that's a good point.
No one asked him to do that. That was just like, he's just getting his rocks off.
He already given his grade and everything,
Okay, so that's going on. I don't know if this is exactly chronological, what I'm about to say, but this is another piece I was a little confused by. So Chan is going to see a therapist because Superintendent Wong says he's all fucked up. And they kind of also, Superintendent Wong and he's seen on the rooftop was a little confusing to me when he's like,
oh yeah,
he's like, I've been doing this for 10 years. First of all, I was kind of confused by the time jump at first. I was like, oh, I thought these kids were going to be the main actors. So it took me a second to realize that they had just aged.
And he doesn't look like, also like the cadet guy doesn't look like the guy either.
No, not like really a ton.
Yeah, that tripped me up in the beginning.
But anyway, so we see them on that rooftop and he's saying like, it's been, 4 years I've been with this guy. I've been doing this for 10 years. You're always saying just like one more job. And you're kind of like, man, this Superintendent Wong just seems like kind of like this horrible handler that's going to like leave this guy out to dry,
Yeah.
And then later on, they're like, Wong seems like a good guy, but you're kind of like, why are we like remembering this guy so favorably? Like, kind of seems like he put Chan in like harm's way for like fucking a decade.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's one line where he's like, I don't want to get you killed. Let's get you out of here. It's like the day that he gets executed, he decides that doesn't make you a good guy. It's been 10 years of you fucking dragging this dude around.
No, I know. And also he dies so quick in the movie. Like, I don't really build much of a relationship with him. I'm like, oh, all right. Like, there he goes.
I liked his character. I thought he was a good actor, but it's just a little confusing with the script. But anyway, so he meets with Wong. Wong says you got to go to this therapist. I thought all of the therapy scenes were really weird in this movie. I think that this is something that The Departed definitively does better.
Yeah, maybe I just don't understand their therapy culture. But like, I mean, the whole scene
taking a nap. I didn't hate that.
No, that made sense. Yeah, I thought that was
going
cool.
From like, hey, I know I've been coming here for 4 months and actively ignoring you and fundamentally disrespecting your profession, but I've been dreaming about you, baby, and I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but like, what are you up to tonight? Like crazy romance.
It's a crazy thing I just thought about is also like, because I've seen The Departed first, I was assuming that she knew he was a cop already. Like I assumed like he had been like sent there by the police, and then like it's like he's like, oh, I'm a cop, and she's like joking, she's like, so am I, or whatever. Yeah. Like I think that's also why this movie's hard to watch after seeing The Departed, because I'm making assumptions based off what Scorsese did, and I've also seen that movie more than other movies, so I'm like, I like really know that movie. And I think it was like, as we're talking about it, like, these are some great scenes, right? And I'm sure if you'd seen this first, like, I'm sure if I had seen this first, I might have even liked it even more, you know?
Well, and honestly, maybe I should have brought this up during the production history part, but this is something that actually I think, like, being a Westerner, not really familiar with
Yeah.
Hong Kong or Chinese culture for the most part. One thing, like a context for this film that I think really does make me like it a lot more and appreciate it far more, that I was completely unaware of, was this movie was in large part influenced by Hong Kong's status of being essentially like a British colony to then getting its independence, but then, essentially having mainland China dominated. Did you read anything about this much in the production history?
No, I didn't know this.
So it's pretty interesting. Hong Kong was in British occupation for, I don't know if it was 100 years. I mean, it was a very long time. And when the British left, there's sort of expected to be some degree of independence, that Hong Kong could act, even though it would be part of China, it could act independently. And so, and this is, I'm sure I'm glancing over quite a bit, but there was sort of this thought that it wasn't that they became decolonized when the British left. It was that they got recolonized, but this time just by mainland China, which would be like Beijing's influence now just dominating everything. And so I think a big part of this story is that there is this feeling of like identity and questioning yourself in terms of like, I am, Hong Kong. Do I view myself as British, as Chinese, as Hong Kong first, or like mainlander? And then there's also the piece of like, okay, now we have these new invaders coming in, maybe through the form of the police, right? Like they've taken over our police system. And I believe it was like either I think it was the director of this film, Andy, I forgot his last name, maybe Lau. He wrote that part of why he made this movie is because as a kid, he was told you can't be a good person and a police officer. And so like, that's a very different context than I think maybe we would have with how the police were viewed in early 2000s America, where like, there's obviously still tons of rhetoric around the violence and abuse that they would incur, but I don't think it was strictly like you cannot be a good person and a cop. And that's how the creator of this story was brought up. So like, I think it's interesting looking at this movie, and from the get-go, you're like, for me, I'm like, okay, cops are good guys, gangs are bad guys. I think if you have like a Hong Kong context, it's actually quite a bit more nuanced in a lot of different ways.
I think you just answered this question I had actually for you about like, is there more of a moral question in this movie? Because I kept reading that of like, it's a big like moral debate, and I was like, wait, what's the moral question for the cop? He's a cop. Because like just the way that like, I guess I had been thinking about it like Americanized view, but the way you just explained that, I think puts that piece together of it really is like a moral conundrum, and that kind of goes to the title also, is like it's two people in that rung of hell. So it's just, that's interesting. I did not read that. It's cool that you had that, those facts.
And I think it makes the therapy scenes make a little bit more sense, at least like the specific line of like, do you think I'm a good person? And she's like, I don't really know you. And it's kind of, I think, just in some ways the director being like, I'm a cop who's, intentionally dirty, but I'm a dirty cop, and it's like kind of very confusing in that way.
Interesting.
But anyway, so sorry, I just spent so much time thinking about it. I think it's like a cool part of the movie, but
cool. It's super cool.
The other therapy parts I think are pretty weak. Like when we see her on the street later on.
Wait. So was that her on the street? I thought that was another. I thought that was like, because then she had like a daughter, and she was like, and
she's like,
how
like
old
6.
is she? Yeah, and then she said like, oh, like I jumped, my brain jumped to that, like that was someone from his past life. That was definitely a different girl. That was not the therapist, and like it was it was someone from his past. And I think that was supposed to be his daughter, and it was like, but I was like, in the Scorsese movie, they would have built that out so much more. There was so much backstory about these characters, and this one we got one scene with that. I still am not clear. I'm just actually speculating to you right now what I thought like happened. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, if that's not his therapist, then first of all, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best, I swear. But
and if I'm wrong,
it's also
wait. Let me issue my apology. If I'm wrong, I am sorry too. You almost blew right by me.
No, but I mean, well, if it isn't her, it's just like that's the only female character we've seen him interact with. So that's kind of where my head was going.
Yeah.
But then it also didn't make any sense because then there's the time jump piece, but it seems implied that that's his daughter, right?
Yes.
Anywho,
it was just a side character, but it's an hour 40-minute movie,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
very confusing that that's in here.
Yeah, and that's the big difference between the movies is that it's a half of the runtime as The Departed, third of the budget, and it still tells a pretty like tight packed like lean story. So maybe that's some credit, that's some props that we're going to give it, but also because like we enjoy The Departed so much, like that would have been a great opportunity to build out a character a bit.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I think in either scenario, if she's a separate character or she's the same character, it's just there's no payoff for that, right? And so that's ultimately, I think, a weakness in the script a bit, or at least in the final film.
Can I call it a couple of random things? I think.
Oh yeah, do it.
So there's like just really cool shots randomly, like guys stepping out of cars. Did you notice that? It'd be like 3 guys all in suits stepping out of cars at the same time in the street. Like just really cool, like synchronous,
coordinated,
coordinated shots that I thought were really cool. And then then this next one is skipping way ahead. Okay, sorry, back to you.
No, you're good. So I would say after some of those initial sequences, the big one is Chan and the superintendent on the rooftop talking it out. They're at this point being tailed by Lau, who's having actual policemen tail the superintendent, and then he uses this information to send over basically the kill squad for Brother Sam. I thought it was a great scene. I think it's still executed really well, especially like I think trying to distance yourself from The Departed and remember this was like the first iteration of this idea in a way. I think it's really cool. Like I like that like the superintendent kind of believably is like, okay, I'm just going to play it cool. Like we don't really know who's here. I'm sure I could just walk past them. He doesn't know these are executioners yet, you know?
Right.
I think The Departed ultimately does it better. But I think if you didn't know what was coming, like I love that he hops in that cab and it's the same cab that like has, you know, the superintendent's body fall onto it. So I think it's still done really effectively, even if Marty might have a slight edge.
No, I agree. I wouldn't have much to tag on it. You summed it up well.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on the Lau betrayal of Brother Sam sequence where they have like the underpass, like highway sequence?
Which one was that again? I don't remember.
That's where Lau betrays Brother Sam by telling him like, hey, you should check out the warehouses because if the mole got that information, you should drive there yourself. And then
we got to talk
ambush.
Can we talk in terms of characters from The Departed? Because I keep getting lost. Like I know I remember these scenes, but I'm only thinking about like Jack Nicholson and yeah.
This is Nicholson driving on the highway. He gets tailed by the cops, and then the police car drives out in front of him. He tries to turn around. Another one comes out. He drives out. It crashes.
Right.
And then Lau is waiting there, which would be the Damon character.
Right. Yeah. I don't have much to add on. You just did it.
Okay. Well, you know, actually, I was kind of trying to have you do it, but you didn't remember it,
dude. I just don't. I didn't remember it that much. Dude, this movie moves so quick for me, and I'm always trying to read the subtitles, and like I kept like honestly like I had to think about it in terms of The Departed because I felt like I was getting lost. So like I actually don't. That scene didn't jump out to me so much. I don't remember.
It's a really quick scene. It's kind of. I mean, I think it could have been fleshed out a little bit more, and I think it's again like maybe The Departed does a little bit better because I think there's some criticism of Nicholson dialing it up a little too much in that movie. I think it's excellent at this point. Like now that I've seen it a dozen times, it just only gets better and better to me how psychotic he is in there. But like love it or hate it, he's a very memorable character. You really have feelings about him. And so I think when he gets killed, you're kind of like, damn, this guy's a fucking psychopath and this guy just iced him. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We never really see Brother Sam do anything that fucked up in this movie. Like, he's pulling strings and he's certainly like, I'm sure he's like coordinating murder.
Right.
But we're not really like seeing him do anything that. So it just feels a little bit different when he gets killed. You're kind of like, okay, I guess it's just like, new management.
Yeah, no, I know. Wait, did we talk about the movie theater scene?
Oh no, we skipped over. Okay, but see, like that being, I wouldn't have expected that being basically 1-to-1 lifted into The Departed. Although, of course, Scorsese has to make it like a little bit more perverted by making it a porno theater, right? And like Nicholson's pulling out a dildo on Damon.
Yeah, and apparently, like I guess Nicholson wanted to do that. I don't know.
Oh, really?
But I think, it was like his idea. I don't know. I thought it was cooler to do it in like a commercial theater. Like I thought it was kind of cool walking through like the AMC, like you could saw like the other movie posters and stuff. Like in The Departed,
I think they had Air Force One or something. Maybe it wasn't that, but
it was like something with Harrison Ford. Yeah. But yeah, in The Departed, it's like just back alleys and stuff. But I kind of liked that it was through like an actual theater. And then let's see. I think that not doing it in the porn theater, I kind of liked too. But what can you do? Like
it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, and so after that, I think the next big sequence is really Chan, so the Leo character. Also, I want to bring this up. I think that he really looks like Leo. Like they've really made a similar style because they're both wearing these leather kind of grungy vests, and they both have like kind of like a little bit of a patchy
Yeah,
goatee
yeah.
thing going on. You know, like they look so similar.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, you're saying it's intentional, definitely, right? Leo
I think it
definitely.
has to be. I think
Yeah,
it has to be intentional.
yeah,
But yeah, so he finally comes into the station and he meets Lau, who is like, all right, like what's the password to get into this file? And then Chan realizes from seeing his character signed onto the manila envelope, like, oh
right,
shit, this is the guy.
right.
I honestly thought it was a really clever um turn. Like I really didn't expect or I wasn't thinking anything. Even having seen The Departed, when he's writing out the character for bodyguard onto the envelope, I really was like, oh, okay, like he's just having a moment with this guy. Like maybe I'm just being smooth brained. But when it came up at the end, I was like, oh, this is, I think, actually a really good narrative device to push the story forward.
I think 'cause I just like I've seen The Departed within the 6 months. I think it was like I was like, oh, that's the thing, the tip off thing. Because it's actually kind of a funny thing in The Departed that like after he sees it on the envelope, he doesn't slide it back under the papers. He just leaves it sitting out there. So that always bothered me. So I was looking out for that. I'm like, okay, is it gonna be the same thing in this where like the
Chan.
yeah, where Chan pulls it out, takes a look, and then leaves it sitting wide open for Leo to like
Rookie move.
or for man, I mixed up all the characters, dude. I could not keep track of the characters' names. Like, you're doing such a good job with it. I'm so impressed, but it's making me look like I didn't even watch the movie.
No, you did more of the production stuff. I just get the names down.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the conversation either way.
Okay, no, but I had that same point as you. That's definitely a nitpick, right? Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, I think bare minimum, just put the envelope back to where it was. But like, take it a step further. I would get my documentation that proves who I am, because now I know that there's a mole, and I need to like verify that I'm a cop. And then, I think that I do wish, like, this is another Departed thing. I love that there's the Mark Wahlberg character. There's somebody for Leo to reach out to, even if they're a little bit AFK. There's like at least an attempt. Because at this point he is so isolated. But like, why wouldn't you at least be like, okay, I'm gonna like, now everyone knows I'm a cop, and like I'm gonna report this guy and like expose him.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, you can make the same argument with the Departed too, of like some of the decisions. It's not that great.
Because ultimately his plan ends up being that he just meets him on the rooftop, handcuffs him, and then brings him in. It's like, well, you were already in the police precinct together. So what changed? Other than, I guess, he talked with his therapist.
What did you think about that last scene? Like, did you like, because that guy was kind of like a random guy, he was just like part of the crew, but I guess he was tailing him, and then he shoots him, and then like, I mean, that elevator scene was
jumping
pretty
to the end.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, it's fine. Honestly, that's really the last thing to touch on. I think Departed did a better job of this.
It's so hard.
I thought it was a little confusing, like even just how they positioned, like the kind of the set design of him backing into the elevator and getting shot. You're like, oh, okay. I thought somebody in the elevator shot him. I thought it was confusing that the dude on the floor with him, it didn't really look like that was the direction the bullet came from. Versus, I think it's so much more shocking when Leo gets shot in The Departed.
Yeah, and this is where I just don't know enough. Like, is that like our American brain style of like that fast-paced action that like that's what we need, and like the cuts and is that just, I don't know. Are we gonna come across as complete morons on this? I'm not sure, but I think we tried our best. Yeah,
this is definitely an A for effort style of pod. And then that's it for the scenes. I mean, we do have the closing of the funeral sequence, where it does turn out that Chan was found to be a police officer, and so he gets his, like post-mortem justice, sort of. But then we get to see Lau is like ascending in the ranks and actually does not have to deal with Matt Damon's untimely demise.
Yeah, what'd you think about the bagpipes at the funeral?
I was so confused. Did you Google this?
No, did you?
No, but I was like, do they do this across the world? What's going on?
Yeah, that was the same thing I was thinking. I was like, is that really like a national world thing? I don't know.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it's the Hong Kong thing, though. like the British colony, like maybe they just have kind of ingrained, because it used to be a police state of Britain, so like
Yeah.
maybe they do the bagpipes, and so it just became culturally a thing.
And you know another random thing, like why was he also working at like the like audio equipment store in the
Yeah, I don't
beginning?
know what's going on. Maybe it's like a cover. I don't know.
And at the end, it was like, "Hey, the guy from the audio store came by." She's like, she knows him. Like, was he wearing like a shirt? Like, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it was just, and then that it was like just a quick scene in the beginning of him at the audio, and then he kind of got into it with the store, and was like, "You can't be giving out like stuff like that." I'm like, I was just like, "What?" Wait, I was so confused by him working there. I just did not get that.
Yeah, so was it the two of them, Chan and Lau? Are they were the ones that had the conversation in
In
the
the
store at
beginning.
the beginning, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
And then that's a key part of the movie, right? Where he drops off the tape with him getting caught that like turns him over to his wife, and like, he's recording over that. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, the guy from the store came and fixed up the speakers. I was like, oh.
That is a nice little knife twist that he gets the fiance to hate his guts.
Yeah. I think I like what I did like about this better is that in The Departed, there's that weird like love triangle thing, where they're both
Mhm.
dating the same girl. That just didn't seem like necessary. This is just like much more normal. They're just like normal relationships.
All right. So those are all the scenes of the movie. I've already touched on my nitpicks. Do you have any sort of like highs or lows you want to touch on?
No, I mean I think we've talked about it, and it's hard because like I did enjoy the movie. Like I was having a good time, but like some of the things that were so high in The Departed ended up being the lows here. Where like I just like once the falling on the car scene had already happened, I was like, oh okay, that was it. Like it's over now.
Mhm.
Or then once Jack Nicholson got shot, I was like, oh man, like now he's dead. Um,
Mhm.
Okay, that was a difference from The Departed too, right? Like in The Departed, he doesn't kill him. He gets shot by the cops, and then like he shows up. Damon shows up. In this movie, like he straight up shoots him.
I think doesn't Damon do the finishing blow though also?
He might. Maybe that's how they soften it a bit. Is that
Yeah.
it's like yeah. This one was just like in cold blood. He just like pulls up on him, and then they have the slow clap of them coming back in the office, which I think they also did in The Departed too.
Yeah. No, I think I do want to say one of the highlights of this movie, other than I think it's a great story. Like I think it's just fantastic. And I think the sequences again of like the double crosses, all those things are really effective. They're just
Mm,
like it's just hard when you're going up against the guy who won like best picture and
I
director
know.
for this, right? And he's in his own right an unbelievable artist. Um, but I do think if you can like step away from all that, I think the acting is really excellent from both of the main leads and Superintendent Wong. I think that they're all really good. I think like there is a lot of really competent, cool stuff going on with the cinematography. So I think there's a lot of things in this movie to really enjoy. It's just like, there's a little. This is so rude to say, but it's a little. We've got The Departed at home,
Oh no. It's true. It's true.
um, and I mean, that's a great, I would love to be The Departed at home anytime. I cannot claim to be that good myself, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
You're
tough.
right. No, you're right. And I think the fact that we landed in kind of the same place on it, like, must indicate something. I think at the end of it, I was
Hmm.
like, oh, shouldn't I like? I should have really liked this more. And that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, can you enjoy this like to its full extent if you've already seen The Departed and you're expecting things to go that way? Like, I really don't know if you can. Like, I think if I'd seen this first, or like maybe understood like Hong Kong culture more, like I could see this, like why this is a classic. I think I went with like a 3.5 for that reason. Like I think I really enjoyed it. I can see that like why people like this. I'm glad it inspired the remake. And I prefer The Departed. I don't think it's even matters. They shouldn't even be compared. But that's where I'm at on the two.
But we've just done it for an hour, and it can't be undone. So
Yeah.
I know I have the same. Again, we do this every week where we honestly, I promise we don't tell each other beforehand. I also said 3.5 because I just have so much respect for it that I can't like, and I think it's a great movie. Like even having seen The Departed, I actually enjoyed it. And beforehand, to be honest, I was a little like, okay, I've got to make sure to watch my movie beforehand. Like no knock on the movie, but I was like, it's just sometimes when I have other things going on, it can be
Oh
a
yeah.
chore when you're like, okay, I gotta like sit down and do this thing, not just because I want to in this moment. but pretty quickly I was like, no, okay, like this is like very competently done and it's moving really quickly. So I do think it's a great story. I would definitely recommend it to like not everyone, but if someone is like an actual fan of movies, and certainly if they like The Departed, I'd be like, why wouldn't you check out the thing that it's based on?
That's where I go on this. If you're a big fan of The Departed, it was cool to watch through that lens, and I did really enjoy that as well. And also a testament to how good it was is that we just did 52 minutes on it. Like we had enough to talk about. I know. Well,
Yeah.
I did talk about Grizzly Man for a while.
Yeah, and I talked about Mission Impossible for probably 10 minutes.
Yeah, but we hadn't caught up in a while. It's been a couple weeks.
I know. I missed you, John.
I know, man. It's been too long.
Just say it back.
Yeah, should we just
say it back?
Should we just roll right into the Florida project?
No way. I can't do it today.
No, I'm just
any final thoughts on Infernal Affairs?
Nah, man. I think we covered it.
Okay. This was great. Well, as always, we have a pretty, what is this? I think this is episode 19 for us.
It's getting up there. It's 19, 18 or 19.
We've got a pretty wild discography of these pods. So if you want to check any of them out, feel free to hit the link in the description. And if you have any thoughts on this movie, leave a comment or let us know what you want us to watch next. But in the meantime, thanks for the time, John. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be one I rewatch, This is going to be one. All right, see ya.
All right, bye.